In normal circumstances, help is just a phone call away. Even dialing emergency services and leaving the receiver out can sometimes bring police when it's not possible to speak on the phone. However, in some situations, even this is not possible, where the person in trouble needs more than just simple police assistance. These people have come up with creative ways to seek help. Most people have heard the story of a hostage calling the police and pretending to order pizza. She's been praised for her ingenuity, though police have warned some operators may not understand. Thankfully, these 5 people were able to get their call for help out using unusual methods. Number 5. Sheila Frederick was a flight attendant for an Alaskan Airlines flight when she rescued a teenage human trafficking victim in 2011. The flight from Seattle to San Francisco was already well underway when Sheila noticed the girl, who looked to be around 14 or 15 years old. The girl was disheveled with dirty hair and bruises on her arms. Sheila described her as looking as if she'd been through pure hell. Her appearance was in a stark contrast to the man that she was traveling with. He was an older gentleman in an expensive-looking business suit who seemed to be a bit at ease. The difference set off alarm bells for Sheila. Flight attendants are now trained to spot the telltale signs of human trafficking. 2 million women and children are victims of human trafficking every year, and airport workers are often the first line of defense. Signs attendants are taught to notice include passengers who are not permitted to speak for themselves and don't make eye contact. Victims are also often dressed inappropriately and have very little luggage even on long-haul flights. Sheila tried to speak to the girl, but the men she was with always answered for her and got defensive. Fearing the girl may have traveled against her will, Sheila had to think quickly. She left a note and pen on the mirror in one of the plane bathrooms. It told the girl to leave a message if she was in trouble. It also included Sheila's phone number. Sheila then quietly told the girl to use the bathroom. The girl wrote back on the note, leaving the message, "I need help." Sheila found the note and contacted the pilot. The pilot informed officials back on the ground about the suspicious passengers, and when the plane landed in San Francisco, police were waiting at the terminal. The girl was allowed to return home, and according to some reports, is now attending college. Sheila's experience is now used in training exercises to teach other attendants how to spot the signs and what to do when they suspect someone is in trouble. Number 4. A message in a bottle may seem like an unrealistic movie cliche, but for Curtis Whitson and his family, it was their last hope of being quickly rescued. Curtis and his girlfriend, Crystal Ramirez, and his 13-year-old son, Matthew, were on a multi-day hike along the banks of the Arroyo Seco River in California. They had already been out for 2 days when the family came to the top of a 40-foot waterfall. It was an isolated area in the Los Padres National Forest with a tall canyon wall on either side of the path. Curtis had traveled this route before, 7 years earlier, and came prepared with ropes to climb down the steep cliff and reach the bottom of the waterfall. However, the only way down required navigating a slippery edge to tie the rope to a rock. The water flow was much faster than Curtis had been expecting due to a winter of higher than average rainfall. The family felt this was too dangerous for them to navigate, and they needed to find another route. Curtis considered heading back the way that they'd come, but it would have been a long journey back to civilization, and the family feared that they would run out of food before they would make it. They also worried turning back would confuse any rescue efforts. The family wouldn't have been noticed missing until the following day, when they were due to meet Curtis's friends downriver. Even then, Curtis worried his friends wouldn't realize that anything was wrong straight away. It would be days until they were found by any search and rescue efforts, and they realized they needed to call for help themselves. There was no cell phone reception, and when they tried shouting for help, they received no answer. It wasn't until the afternoon that Curtis came up with another idea. He scratched the message "Get help" onto a water bottle, but feared that it wouldn't grab enough attention. Crystal had a small notepad and pen that she'd been using to keep track of scores from their games. Curtis used these to write the message 6:15:19, "We are stuck here at the waterfall, get help please," and slipped it inside of the bottle. He then threw the bottle over the edge of the waterfall and hoped that help would come. The note was found a quarter-mile downstream by 2 hikers who alerted authorities. A search and rescue operation was underway, but it wasn't until midnight that rescue helicopters found the family. The next morning, they were airlifted to safety. Number 3. Morse code is a communication method created by Alfred Vail, consisting of a series of dots and dashes, which represents every letter of the alphabet. It was most popular when the telegraph was the fastest form of communication, but it's still used in modern times, especially in emergency situations. It's most commonly communicated through a buzzer of some kind or a flashing light, but the versatility is one of the most useful aspects of the code. In 1966, Commander Jeremiah Denton used the code to communicate a secret message to the US government. Denton was an experienced Navy pilot who, in 1965, led an air attack in North Vietnam during the Vietnam War. He was shot down and captured by the North Vietnamese. For more than 7 years, he was held at various prisoner of war camps, where he experienced torture, starvation, and periods of isolation. Despite this, Denton refused to submit. He came up with ways for other prisoners to communicate secretly with one another, primarily through coughing in sequence. He urged prisoners to resist. In 1966, Denton was chosen to appear in a propaganda interview on Japanese television. Denton appeared thin and haggard, obviously starved. However, when asked about his treatment, Denton told the camera that he had adequate food and clothing and medical care when needed. However, Denton refused to be a propaganda prop and did not answer questions as instructed by his captors. He was asked about his views on the actions of the United States government. He responded, "I don't know what's happening, but whatever the position of my government is, I support it fully. Whatever the position of my government is, I believe in it. I'm a member of that government and it's my job to support it, and I will as long as I live." This message would inevitably lead to his captors to torture him severely, but it didn't provide anything significant to the US forces. However, those who watched Denton's eyes noticed there was more to his message than meets the eye. Pretending to be blinded by the TV cameras, Denton blinked rapidly throughout his interview. Anyone with knowledge of Morse code would recognize that it was a message. The US Naval Intelligence was able to read the single-word report: torture. It was the first clear confirmation of torture in the North Vietnamese prisoner of war camps, and no doubt spurred on efforts to free American prisoners from the war in Vietnam. Denton, who was promoted to captain during his captivity, was released in early 1973 and went on to serve the US Senate. Number 2. In the United Kingdom, it's common practice for primary school children to write Christmas cards for all their classmates, and supermarkets sell boxes of small cards for this purpose around the festive season. It was inside one of these boxes that a 6-year-old named Florence from London found a secret message from a man in a Chinese prison. She was on her 6th or 8th card when she opened her next card to find someone had already written inside. The message, written in block capital letters, read, "We are foreign prisoners in Shanghai Qingpu Prison, China, forced to work against our will. Please help us and notify Human Rights Organization. Use the link to contact Mr. Peter Humphrey." Peter is a British former journalist and investigator who was forced to make confessions on Chinese state TV. He was imprisoned at the Qingpu prison and only released in July of 2015. Since his release, Peter has spoken about many human rights violations that he witnessed and endured, and post-traumatic stress disorder that he suffers from due to his experiences. Florence's father thought the note was a bad prank at first, but he then decided to treat it seriously. He contacted Peter, who spoke to other ex-prisoners from the prison and confirmed inmates were forced to work. Tesco, where Florence's parents had purchased the cards, launched an investigation and suspended its work with the printing company, the supplier of the cards. A Chinese foreign ministry spokesman claimed the story was made up by Peter and insisted foreign prisoners weren't being forced to work. It later emerged that the note was written by a Nigerian prisoner named Antoine, who was serving a 4-year sentence for alleged contract fraud. He and another inmate, who was caged for life for drug offenses, wrote 10 notes when they discovered foreign inmates were going to join Chinese prisoners in forced labor. He had actually been released for 2 months when he learned that the note had been discovered, but still thought that it was fantastic that the note had been found. It brought to light conditions in Chinese prisons where many of the inmates didn't receive any trial at all, and will hopefully help some of Antoine's former cellmates. Number 1. When Cheryl Treadway's boyfriend, Ethan Earl Nickerson, held her and her children hostage at their home in 2015, Cheryl knew she had to act fast to protect her and her family. Cheryl and Nickerson had gotten into an argument earlier in the day. When Cheryl tried to leave to pick up her children from school, Nickerson pulled out a large knife and threatened her. He also stole her phone so she wouldn't be able to call for help. Still holding her at knife point, Nickerson accompanied Cheryl to the school, where they picked up 3 children before returning home. There, Cheryl managed to convince her boyfriend to return her phone so that she could order dinner for them. Cheryl used the Pizza Hut app to order a pepperoni pizza from the local restaurant where she was a regular customer. In the notes section of the order, she sent a call for help. Instead of the usual delivery instructions, staff at the Avon Park Pizza Hut found the message, "Hostage, help, get 911. As soon as she made the order, Nickerson took the phone back, and Cheryl had to hope that the call for help was seen. Thankfully, staff at the restaurant recognized Cheryl's name and knew this wasn't a practical joke. They acted quickly, calling police to investigate the situation. Police arrived at the house not long after, where they found Cheryl and one of her children had managed to escape. Cheryl quickly explained to police what had happened. 2 of her children were still inside with Nickerson. After 20 minutes, police were able to convince Nickerson to come out, and the children were removed from the house unharmed. If their mother hadn't been so quick thinking, the outcome could have been very different. Nickerson was arrested and charged with aggravated assault with a weapon, battery, and false imprisonment. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to click that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But I've been Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.